Chapter 3. The New Candidates. 10th hour, 18th day, 1st month. Year 807, post-Heavenfall. Stormwind Lecture Hall was large enough to seat a couple of hundreds and contained rows of desks forming a semicircle around a wide dais. 2 chalkboards were mounted on the wall, below a set of stained glass windows depicting Sentinel heroics. Roughly a quarter of the chairs were occupied by new candidates, while 4 faculty stood on the dais.
"Excuse me, everyone,"
a reedy voice spoke from a balding, rotund human man wearing robes dyed bright red.
"Could you all please sit closer? I realise there is ample space, but I would much prefer not to shout."
The candidates scattered throughout the room obliged and came to the front rows. "Thank you. Welcome, candidates. My name is Father Garma Rummel, cleric of Zaylin, 3rd class Sentinel, and the acting headmaster of this academy. To my immediate right is Eisen Stormir, also Sentinel, 3rd class. Garma waved his hand behind him, and a hooded elven man with golden skin gave a small bow to the audience. In the middle is Valeria Raltis, Sentinel, 5th class. A blonde human woman in her late 20s grinned and waved. And furthest away is Dodak Burrow Smasher, also Sentinel 5th class. A young halfling with a moustache and dour expression nodded. For those unfamiliar with the process, we are this year's rotation of instructors who have been assigned to help train you all to be the next Sentinels. Considering most of you are new to the academy and enrolled for at least 2 years, you will likely be seeing a new set of teachers next spring, who will help broaden your skills and abilities. Regardless, we are all excited and proud to help be a part of growing your professional careers. To have been chosen to be a future Sentinel is a great honour, and I congratulate you all for qualifying, either through the trials of selection or being personally recommended by my peers. To be sitting here shows that you are a cut above the norm and hold something extraordinary inside your heart to be considered. You represent not only the courage of one who wishes to put themselves in the field, but also a sense of duty to safeguard our nation from threats, both from without and within. The Sentinels are not as large as an army, but we can be just as effective, if not more, through the intelligence we deliver and by surgical strikes when absolutely necessary. As Father Garma paused for a moment, the candidates beamed with pride from his speech, including Ariya. "Well then," Garma clasped his hands. "Sentinel Valeria will be passing out some packets of information, listing details about courses you can take and their schedules. On the back, you can select the ones you would like to take for this academic year in the timetables. While you go over them, we will be conducting a panel interview with each of you to decide on a suitable advisor for field exercises." Valeria stepped toward one end of the front row and passed a small stack of papers before moving on to the next row. When Ariya received her packet, she saw it titled Sentinel Academy Course Catalogue, 807 Post-Heavenfall. A quick flip through the pages revealed classes on various topics, including arcane theory, defensive dueling, battle tactics, toxicology, and surviving in the wild. Each of you will select up to 4 courses to enroll in. If you need ink or a pen, we do have some to spare, but please remember to bring your own next time. A few moments after the last student received their copy, Garma pulled out a folded note from his pocket and spoke again. To begin the panel interviews, we'll be going in alphabetical order. Let's start with Ariya Malanti. Ariya raised her hand. "It's Ariya, sir. Ariya Malanti." "Oh, Tehran's Justice. I do apologise for the pronunciation. If you could come to the front, please." She stepped up to the dais as Eisen unfurled a scroll and placed it on the floor with a small crystal bead at the centre of spiralling inscriptions. He then spoke in a language of harsh consonants and signed in concert with his hands. The letterings on the scroll flared as a pulse of bright light rippled across the floor, before halting to form a 10-foot diameter ring. A curving, translucent wall began to rise from the circle and enclosed both Ariya and the Sentinels as it stitched itself into a dome. The scroll, meanwhile, had reduced itself to ashes. Eisen then waved his hand, and 4 wooden chairs and a bar stool manifested around a simple round table. I've considered your request for more comfortable seating, Valeria, as you can see. Oh, good, thank you, she said joyfully, before passing around some documents to the other Sentinels from a folder. Everyone then took their seats, with the halfling climbing atop the stool to be level with his peers. Upon settling in, Garma spoke first. Well, I would like to begin by welcoming you again to the Academy, and congratulating you on joining our newest cohort of recruits. If you would like any refreshments or need to pause, please do not hesitate to ask. Do you have any questions for us before we begin? Ariya shook her head. No questions, and I'm fine for now. Very well then, Garma replied. Who would like to start first? I can, Eisen spoke. Lady Malanti, thank you for joining us today. You are the only Eden Valian to be recruited into this cohort. If my knowledge is correct, most citizens of the Commandery wishing to serve in a similar role as ours would join Eden Valia's Gladestalkers. What made you choose the Sentinels? A couple of factors, Ariya replied. After spending my entire life there, I wanted to see more of the world for myself and experience other people's perspectives. The Sentinels seemed more inclusive, and I believe understanding other cultures makes one more effective at intelligence gathering and operating in the field. I also value serving the good of the entire hegemony, rather than the interests of just the Commandery. Eisen nodded at her answer. Understanding others' cultures is also a large part of why I came here myself. I have to admit that it is always delightful to see another fellow Eden Valian elf here in these halls again. He then looked around at the other faculty. Does anyone have anything else to follow up on? I do, Dodak interjected. We know your father is Ray Iliani, who's the current head of the Gladstalkers, while your mother is Sarah Malanti, Queen Unriel Lorien's personal chef and a celebrated wizard. Is there potential for a conflict of interest here? Ariya shook her head. Both of my parents have many accomplishments that I aspire towards. However, their fortunes were earned through the struggles of their earlier lives and inspired values in me to walk my own path and come here. They're fully supportive of my choice and are proud to have a potential sentinel. They may be currently in service to Eden Valia, but they deeply value stability of the hegemony. Besides values, it looks like they've instilled some pretty useful skills as well, Valeria remarked as she glanced down at Ariya's records. Your exams rated having proficiency in society, perception, deception, acrobatics, law, and very high proficiency in stealth, thievery, and diplomacy. Overall, you're a rounded individual, save for needing some improvement in strength and athletics. Lack of strength is understandable for someone highborn in a city, Dodak said dryly. If I recall, her scores are similar to yours when you joined, Valeria, Garma mentioned. Were they? It's been a while, so I don't recall my results. Slightly lower than average on Arcana, in contrast to most Eden Valians, though, Eisen pointed out. Ariya bristled at the comment, but remained composed. It's admittedly another reason I chose to come here. Eden Valia places too much stock on those who can master spellcraft, and I understand how it drives their Magitech industry. However, I believe everyone has something unique to offer, and the Sentinels seem to be better at acknowledging that. That's why I moved here too. Home can be stifling, to say the least, Eisen agreed. Valeria raised her hand next. So let's say you were part of a team and operating a town or city. What role do you imagine yourself fulfilling? Ariya paused to imagine a scenario in her mind. I am comfortable at gathering information through written resources or asking the right people. Depending on how much time we have to accomplish a goal, I would encourage my group to befriend the locals, especially those who have authority. Alternatively, if we had some sort of a target location in mind, I could be an effective scout and help relay information to my party so we can plan an infiltration.
And if your party was caught in an unfriendly situation, for example, you've been discovered breaking into this location, how would you prefer to deal with it?
If we've been discovered, I would try to use reason or deceive them into letting us pass or leave without incident. Otherwise, I would have to count on the talents of my party and my own abilities to break us out of the situation.
Garma spoke next. Our candidates have come from all different walks of life, and some are from backgrounds not as fortuitous as your own. As a result, some have been put in dangerous situations where they were forced to kill to survive. Have you killed anyone before?
No, I would prefer not to. Dodak scoffed. In our line of work, you'll very likely have to. I do agree with Ariya that it should be saved as a last resort, Valeria added. The rules of engagement are something we have to remind our fellow Sentinels about from time to time. The halfling grunted with dissatisfaction as Valeria continued. Your preferred weapon seems to be blades designed with finesse in mind. I'm very curious to see your form, considering a lot of Eden Valians have incorporated fighting styles from the eastern continents of Shu.
Ah, yes, Garma exclaimed. I hear it is something akin to a dance even.
It's noted in your application that you wanted to focus on courses specific to being a professional rogue. Are you certain of this selection?
Ariya nodded.
For now, yes. My father is currently one after his 8th awakening, and I've trained to follow his example, Valeria said as she wrote something on the documents. Very well. Just remember that you can change your path any time, and even supplement new techniques from other classes along the way. Yes, that is correct. Garma added, We want our agents to be adaptable to any given situation. Some decide to dip into other fields, while others are comfortable mastering the same art. It is entirely up to you and your preference.
The cleric then leaned back and folded his arms.
I have a new question, which may seem abstract. What would you say is the biggest threat to the hegemony?
Ariya pondered for seconds on the topic and considered possible choices, such as the resurgence of aboleths and other envious nations.
However, when she made her decision, she simply said, ourselves. Dodak gave no expression, while Eisen stared curiously at Ariya. Both Garma and Valeria gave a half smile.
Could you elaborate? The cleric inquired.
History has shown that the end of civilizations has often been brought upon by internal factors in the form of corruption, political and social instability, short-sighted leadership, and weakened economies. These cascaded to either civil war or outside threats taking advantage of weaknesses and invading. Right now, some commanderies are doing better than others, and that disparity could lead to a rift.
Quite an educated answer to consider, Garma nodded.
I have no further questions. Does anyone else? The rest of the faculty shook their heads, and there was a long pause. I just thought of one, Valeria spoke up. Tea or coffee? It's our organization's biggest debate. Eisen and Garma chuckled, while Dodak rolled his eyes. Both, Ariya exclaimed. Tea is faster to make and good for a tight schedule, but there's nothing like an artfully crafted latte or rich espresso. My mother's coffee is something I'll miss of home. Diplomatic. I can see why you scored well in that criterion, Father Garma grinned. I'm personally team coffee, while Eisen is tea. Eisen shook his head. I don't see how anyone could enjoy such a strange concoction that tastes both sour and bitter. How it became so popular is beyond my understanding. Valeria scowled. You can mix it with milk, cream and sugar and create so much variety. You don't have to drink it black. A drink that requires so many ingredients to supplement isn't much of a delicious drink to begin with. Eisen disagreed. But you can do the same with tea too. And I even heard there's a new shop that incorporates tapioca pearls. Otherwise, tea just tastes like flower water without it. Valeria made a face of disgust. Well, I don't mind drinking coffee black, Garma shrugged. Seeing how there are no more relevant questions to be had, off you go. You can return to the desks and select your courses while we deliberate. Ariya stood and bowed respectfully to the sentinels before walking out of the arcane dome. Glancing back, she noticed the outside was completely matte and opaque, like an eggshell. Lost in thoughts over the interview, she was oblivious to the stares from the other candidates while returning to her seat. Barnov leaned toward the elf and whispered in a sing-song fashion. "How did it go?" She shrugged. It didn't seem so bad. What questions did they ask? Ariya noticed the candidates nearby listened in, and was suddenly unsure if the faculty intended the questions to be kept secret, or if she could divulge them. The fact the Sentinels had put up a privacy dome was done so for a reason, but she did want the approval of her peers. The questions were mostly just personality-based and designed to understand me better. The answer did not satisfy Barnov's nosiness. But what were they specifically? Did they ask you anything about arcana or spellcraft because you're a wizard or sorcerer? Ariya's face glowered at the assumption. I'm not. Before she could correct her, Father Garma's head poked through the arcane barrier and called on Barnov to come forward. Wish me luck, she sighed. When Barnov disappeared into the dome, a pale human male with short, curly hair tilted his head toward Ariya and asked, "Just personality questions, right?" The elf nodded. "Thanks," he said, before returning to his copy of the catalogue. Ariya did the same, as each candidate was interviewed one by one throughout the morning. By the time the last student had finished meeting the faculty, almost an hour had passed, and Ariya had finalised her 4 courses. On the list at the front of the sheet, she had checked off defensive dueling, marksmanship, urban infiltration, and history of team tactics and leadership. "Does anyone need more time or assistance filling out their schedules?" Garma asked the room. No one replied. "Very well. If you could be so kind as to turn your packet in and make an orderly stack on the table." The candidate somewhat followed his command, but the stack was anything but orderly and forced Valeria to straighten them. The Sentinel had also caught one of them being nameless and had to briefly question the audience. "Now that we have everyone's selections, you will be dismissed for lunch, and then we'll return here in an hour so we can announce who will be your advisors. Have a good meal, everyone," Father Garma announced. The candidates all stood up and exited into the main lobby. As Ariya and the majority of the crowd headed toward the refectory, one of them spoke up with a foreign accent. "Excuse me? Hello. Since we are all leaving to the dining hall, I thought we could sit together and become acquainted. You do not have to, of course, but I wanted to suggest the idea." Ariya looked over her shoulder and saw a very tall young man with long silver hair who, at a first glance, would quickly be assumed to be human. However, his pupilless grey eyes revealed to her that he was possibly something more. Like her, he also wore silk robes that were popular with cultures of the East, but had been stylized differently, with broader collars at the wrist and neck, and was filled with embroidered patterns of shining clouds, beasts, and auspicious symbols to make up for its lack of arcane infusions. "Sure, that sounds like a great idea," Barnov chimed, and everyone in the immediate vicinity, including Ariya, agreed. When they arrived at their destination, they found a large, bustling chamber, filled with the clatter of cutlery and the low hum of conversation. Multiple wooden tables and benches took up the majority of the space, while a serving counter had the main course of grilled chicken cooked in a sweet wine and butter sauce. Other choices, including sides, small pies, fruits, vegetables, and cake slices, were also on full display. After everyone helped themselves to a choice of meal, 6 of them sat down at a spot designated by the silver-haired candidate.
"Everyone doing well?" he asked. His question was met with a mix of nods and shrugs. "To introduce myself, my name is Zheng Kai. Well, in your lands, I would be Kai Zheng, since here your forename is more important than your family name."
"I was just wondering about that," said a female Inferni with red skin and short horns. "You didn't seem like you were from anywhere in the Hegemony based on, well, everything. Your hair, your clothes, and your accent."
Kai chuckled. "Is it that obvious?" "You are right. Any guesses where I am from?"
"Shu Wei," Ariya said while hiding her mouth with her hand as she chewed. "It's a country to the east in Shu. Eden Valians often do business with yours, so we've picked up on some of your culture."
"Ah, that would explain your attire. It seems like a mixture of our fashion and elven styling. Of course, having it shift colours is something many of my fellow people would be very envious of."
"Do all people from Shu Wei have eyes and hair like yours?" asked Barnov.
Kai shook his head. "A rare number do, but my ancestry is unique." How unique was a question Ariya wanted to know, but she ultimately chose not to. "Let us introduce ourselves by saying our names, where we are from, and what path of profession we are following. We can start with you." He gestured to the pale, curly-haired human from earlier. "Sure, I'm Pen Kalin, from Decaron of Parsano. I'm going artificer," he responded promptly and almost uncomfortably. "Oh, you're from Decaron?" asked the Inferni next to him. "I'm from Zendarim. I love going to Decaron during the summer. The beaches are the best, and it's such a fun city to be." Kalin smiled and nodded, without eye contact in response. "I'm Oriana Greenbrier, by the way, and I'm going the path of the bard. I've always liked doing music, so I figured why not supplement it with some spells for self-defense and shenanigans," the Inferni revealed. It was Ariya's turn next. "I am Ariya Malanti from Eden Valia and its capital city, Eden. I am studying the path of the rogue." "Wait, rogue?" Arnov exclaimed. "I thought you were going to be a wizard or sorcerer, because I heard elves are the best at spells." "Stereotyping," Oriana muttered. Ariya shook her head. "No, I started training to be a professional rogue shortly after my second awakening. My father is currently one, and I've always been fascinated by the patience and art of stealth." "That's going to be all you," Barnov chuckled. "Me? I have no patience for being sneaky, which is why I'm going to be a barbarian. I want my enemies to see me coming before I look at the fear in their eyes and cut them down." "We skipped over one." Kai looked at a Dracokin who sat between Ariya and Barnov. "But since you are eager to tell us about yourself, why don't we hear about you first?" "Oh, sorry." Barnov patted the skipped candidate on the back. "My name is Barnov Kiltskaya, and I grew up in Carlisle, which is a small village near the Slavi Mountains. Not much to say about it, but I wanted to get out and serve the hegemony, and I didn't want to be just another grunt in some army. This is the place to be if you wish to be something greater," Kai smiled. "And you?" He nodded to the Dracokin. "The name's Emtak Krivsan," he spoke in a deep voice. "I'm from the town of Keralon, down in Cogheim, and I'm working to improve my sorcery. I could have learned a lot with the monks at the Puzzle Palace, but I had wanderlust, and joining the Sentinels sounded like the cheapest option." Kai grinned. "Well, we sure have a wide diversity of backgrounds. As for myself, I am studying to be a champion. I am curious as to where we will end up regarding teams. I asked about it, and it sounds like we'll also be paired with other candidates who have been here longer." "Do you think it'll be by specialisation, or they'll try to promote a mix of things per group?" Ariya asked. "I have no idea, but we will find out." The candidates returned to their seats at Swordwind Lecture Hall, where the Sentinels awaited them. "I hope you enjoyed your lunch," Garma began. "Now let us reveal which mentors you'll be paired with." He unfurled a scroll and read the names.
With Sentinel Alan Powell will be Oriana Greenbrier and Tobias Grimm. With Sentinel Dodak, Burrow Smasher will be Barnov Kiltskaya.
I was hoping he'd be my mentor, Barnov whispered enthusiastically to Ariya.
With Sentinel Eisen, Stormir will be Emtact Krivsan and Wim Rexod. Joining me are Nora Axonium and Kai Zeng. As for Sentinel Valeria Raltis, she will advise Ariya Malanti and Pen Kalin.
Ariya made eye contact with her new mentor, who returned a friendly thumbs up. When the announcement of groupings was concluded, Father Garma rolled up the scroll. If your mentor is here, you are more than welcome to talk to them and decide when you would be available to meet the rest of your team. Otherwise, please refer to the handbook you received at the entrance for each Sentinel's office hours and location. Please do not hesitate to speak to me if you have any questions, concerns, comments, or just want to chat. I'm usually in the chapel on the 3rd floor in the evenings. Best of luck to you all, and I wish you all the luck and blessings of the Celestial Founders. May you all have a fruitful year.